OpTic Gaming had the craziest possible run to get into the 2022-23 Spring Major, but day 1 saw them head to the lower bracket. Day 2, they had to face off against Liquid, and they did not disappoint on the entertainment value, as they never do. Here is the match analysis for European powerhouse Liquid versus the NA longshot OpTic Gaming, recorded live from my Twitch. Let's get into it. Team Liquid versus OpTic Gaming. AJ with a nice carryover, that should be a goal. Oh no, it's not, okay. See, I didn't watch this series live. I was like tuning in and out of it because I woke up later and was trying to do some work off camera. So I'm gonna be reacting to this kind of in live time. Like, yeah, a lot of goals in this series, but it doesn't really start until right now. So this is just like purely players trying to react to the touch. I'm not entirely sure what kind of the main intent here is. I believe this is Reddles in the front of driving in on that and then fake channeling this. I think they were kind of waiting for like a decent bounce and seeing if it would go in their way, but it bounced up and over them, and it's like, oh, that's fine. But then it creates this awkward situation where Magic is expecting the touch and it doesn't come in, and AJ's recovering on the back post, and then Acronic just has to slot it. Granted, to hit it slow or low, I don't know how purposeful that is, but it's the perfect decision since Magic Bear's kind of forced to pre-jump it anyway. The thing that I've been fairly critical of OpTic is I don't think their offense is super compelling most of the time. It feels like a lot of their game plan early on is that they're trying to like figure out what they want to do playstyle wise as the game's going on, and I think it gets them into a lot of trouble because I don't really see anything super interesting. That's disgusting, personally. I don't know how purposeful this is. I choose to know that Acronic is just gonna slap that straight down, but he could not put that any cleaner onto the bumper of his teammate. So granted, this is also just a really good back pass, and this is also just the epitome of what good possession is. So if we watch this from Oski's perspective, goes up for it, gets a 50, and then it's easy kind of just to hit it to the side or try to hold the ball up or something, but being able to say, oh, well, I'm already driving backwards, let's play for possession, even though you're hitting it kind of right at Magic Bear. Even if Magic Bear hits it, it's going to the sideline. Acronic has that one on the recovery, or Oski himself could recover. But because it's out of reach, it's like a nice setup. And then all of OpTic is trapped in this no man's land where AJ is facing away from the ball. They know this hit's gonna come up, but I gotta say, like, if this is a purposeful pass straight down, because this shot is not super easily scoreable, then this is disgusting. It's gonna be something you probably can shoot. As you see, they kind of lean into it, which makes me feel like he's not trying to pass it, but it worked out, if it was a pass, to be probably the best thing I've seen all Spring Major. Liquid tries to go very much so, like they're married to the idea of like, I'm going to make sure that every touch is going to be in a position that my teammate can grab it. And other times you get handed something. So this one's a little rough, not much to say about this. I don't really think that's a misposition at all from the rest of OpTic. I think they're trusting that Magic has it. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the comms are like, I'm catching this. Oh, sorry, lost it. Just like it goes straight in. OpTic tends to be very reactive because Liquid is playing fast. They're continuing to just throw the ball into dangerous positions, and I think more importantly, they're throwing it where teammate can get it. Nice setup to Atau, and then it gets the null. Flip reset double. I actually did not see him get this initial reset. Watch that back from his perspective. Yeah, that's just gross. Reddles doesn't have the read, but it doesn't functionally matter. You're not coming back from 3-0 with 41 seconds to go. And this is kind of the game that I expected out of Liquid. Not necessarily the scoreline, but the play style. Urban Temple does not get much better for OpTic, mainly just because they are trying to figure everything out, and right off the bat just does not work. Rough positioning, mainly just because Magic Bear bites very much in on the idea that AJ is going to be able to dance through this one. So soft touch means that Liquid's gonna have to get baited in. Magic Bear knows AJ definitely has this catch and flick. Problem is this flick is pretty weak, and then Magic is caught kind of out. I think Reddle's also in a similar position where he's going up and then has to suddenly adjust and realize, oh, that's a really deep hit. And from there, it's kind of just toast. Like, you're not, very rarely will you waterfall it in front of your net like that and not have someone directly on it. It's more so about the story of OpTic and that they start very cold and they find ways to adjust from there. Good escape trick from AJ to be able to get the first one. And yeah, this is also something that takes a lot of presence of mind that I think is important to keep in mind, is this follow-up touch is very easy to flip into it, but because he recognizes that Oski's rotating out, Acronic shoots it, so he's completely out. He just knows, okay, Reddle's in front of me, tap, and then let your player take it off. And now you have a clean possession, now you can get to this corner boost, and then start to join the attack for Reddles to be able to try to 50. And even though it doesn't amount to much, it's like a nice play to be able to recognize, hey, we can break out without constantly having to clear it. Like, just use the open space. If all of Liquid is going wide or back, then just tap it in front of your teammate and they can take it off kind of like a handoff. So this is just a tough one because Reddles goes for this and it's not even that big of a deal, but then the moment, you know, you see the demo on AJ, it's kind of chalked. But there's also just a great rotation. That's how. There you go. Yeah, so on this play, he goes for this, steals boost, but instead of just saying, oh no, we're in defense, and gets back immediately, he trusts in the read and says, I'm just gonna go straight for AJ. So chase, 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 chase. Demo. All right, time to get number 2. Where are they? Okay, never mind. I'll just stick around for the goal. So like, that's a good heads up play because people always say, oh, people demo chase, they're da-da-da. So that's not demo chasing. That's just saying, hey, if a Chronic's like, hey, I have this clear, you don't get back, get behind it, and then turn up field. You go for a demo like that because AJ doesn't anticipate it. Really, when you're in that situation as third, usually you start thinking about the demo when you're like, I haven't seen the third in a while. And then by that point, you're probably hearing the engine like right behind you. The play was so contentious and that AJ's trying to read off of the deflection from Reddle's aerial earlier, in which he gets beat out by Chronic, that he's not anticipating that third rotation coming back in. Just too much kind of put on your mind at one time. Nice answer back though from Reddles. I've seen a lot of takes about 50s in pro games not being good. This is basically a purposeful 50. AJ knows he can't dribble it over, so he's just gonna get above the ball and be like, here, take a 50. They try, and it's perfect for Reddles. So really good take as well. Good power to be able to put that top shelf. Shots like this are really good from Liquid because they know they're not going to get a lot of power, but it's also slow enough that Reddles can't get a clean clear. Because when a ball is lobbed at somewhat of a slower pace, as long as it's on target, the defender has to deal with it. But Reddles, from this situation, has to jump off and either catch the ball and then risk maybe someone coming in and getting an awkward 50, or doing something like that where he hits it away with a little more power so it's not a clean shot, but then Atau coming through has a clean read, and he just takes it up. That's it, taken away. And Liquid, if they have space, they will always try to go for the mechanical play, so to the air dribble off the ceiling. Didn't work that time, but demo attempt again. That one didn't work out. Just solid play in the backfield. Just because Magic does have the read and immediately turns off ball cam, but then Oski immediately challenges. He does not try to shadow, because I think he understands that OpTic, when someone is shadow defending and they have a demo chaser, I think OpTic scores about 90% of those opportunities. So I think Oski kind of realizes, like, before Magic really lands and angles his car correctly, let's just get in the way. Tough read, but no big deal. Reads a Chronic. Probably just gets a boost steal from Reddles. And good dodge Liquid. As 2 demos came in, I don't think they end up scoring this. Oh, you know, they did. Okay, so the initial shot, they don't really get off, but yeah, this is just a good follow through. Reddles gets the first demo, Magic Bear gets the second. I mean, that's crazy. If this would have been an utter tragedy if Reddles rotated out or rotated a little bit more widely. So again, this game is the most even, but overwhelmingly it is still Liquid possession. I don't know how carefully calculated this was, but a lot of this game is still just Liquid, again, asking questions and then getting, oh my god. I would say this is just good challenge. I don't normally like challenges like this fast, but I also do kind of like the idea of being first up and saying, you know what, I got 50 boosts, let me just throw my car in this one. And also gets a good angle on him. I mean, they kind of lean in a little too early, but I think that's also because AJ does not have the cleanest read on this one. Gonna be 2-0 for Team Liquid. And overall, again, it's Liquid doing Liquid things. A lot of their goals are nice and mechanical, and third one is just good pressure on a good 50. Not necessarily skill-based, more so just saying, hey, I'm just gonna get in your face and see what happens. For NA fans, this is when the game actually got not debilitatingly depressing, which is a fun thing for Game 3 in DFH. To be honest, if I'm Liquid, I'm probably being acutely aware in this series of where Reddles and OpTic are, because they love to go for bumps. That works really well for them up until it doesn't in later in the stages of the series, like this in next game. But per example, giving AJ a bit too much time. This starts off with, yeah, a demo in the midfield. Then Madge takes the corner. That's how it goes, but goes for the win. And a rare miss like this is rough, because then Oski has to get it. And then Oski, since he's not anticipating the miss, hits it backwards. And the moment it's a 2-on-1, as we mentioned before, OpTic scores 90% of them as you start shadow defending. Acronic is forced into basically having to drive away. And at a certain point, this is not going to be a hard touch for Magic Bear to bump his car. So legitimately no way Liquid was ever getting out of that one. That's more of a goal from OpTic being opportunistic and not necessarily creating something organic, because that play started with one individual miss into another. This one is pure kickoff goal. This is not the fanciest flip reset. To be honest, I'm not in love with this challenge from Acronic. Mainly just because as this ball gets lobbed, you have one teammate at midfield and the other one off camera, but most likely at the midline. So as you jump for it, yeah, you might be shutting down a flip reset, but clearly AJ does not have a lot of speed on this one, so I don't know if you just need to challenge it as quickly. And so AJ just kind of gets like a soft little beat over the top and then is able to put it into the open net. And that's the type of threat that you want to shut down AJ on early, as you can see like what is trying to bait players in. And it does create enough chaos that Reynolds gets that goal. That's a really nice angle. You know, screw it. You're already lurking upfield. Magic puts it around. Acronic is flailing. To be honest, a lot of the shot gets legitimized because Atao is getting off the near post and Acronic is landing, which means there's going to be at least a half second as he accelerates where all of the gravity is going to be pushing his car down and he's not going to be able to jump, which is why Acronic literally does not jump for this because he can't. The final 30 seconds is more so just Liquid probably talking it over because at a certain point in games like this, you kind of just have to try to regain momentum, maybe get a goal, but for the most part, you're like, this is chalked. There's no coming back from this. So just go from there. And on OpTic, it's the opposite. You want to keep pounding in goals because you want to boost the morale, get yourself psyched up. And I think this is just a good counterattack. Riddle shoots it. Atto regrettably does not deal with that super well. It's a little bit of a panic play, but ultimately, you know, no big stakes if you miss. Game 4 in Utopia, obviously, the moment OpTic gets a single win, entire chat was saying, trust the process, reverse sweep incoming, because we know, you know, OpTic pulls off probably the best reverse sweep I've ever seen, or definitely most tense reverse sweep against FaZe to get here. So yeah, it's not out of the question that they probably have the capacity to do this. And again, just like Oski and Atto, so good at just going for those resets, trying to get those like lighter touches in. Oh, that's the play I remembered. So Reynolds is 24. Delays that flick. Granted, Atto bites 100% on it, which is one thing, but Acronic and Oski are so spread out. This is kind of the rough part in some rotations where you have one player moving upfield and the other two going back, but they're not even turning because it's not like you're behind. It's like they're both moving back. So then you have this kind of huge gap in space. Acronic thinks about going for it, changes his mind because he doesn't have the read. But in all that time, Reynolds has 100% conviction, just saying demo. And poor Oski trusted his teammate. You can see him. You can see Oski trusts his teammate so much on this. Starts to turn up. Oh, he's got that clear? Oh. 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 Goes up, soft touch. It's behind Magic Bear, but it's in front of Reynolds. It's too far away. So you immediately flip again to it. But the catch here is super clean. And then you just tap, go for a bump. Reynolds dodges though, so it's fine. And then it's all improv from here. Super difficult to be able to get that read if you're not ready for it. This is the weird thing I keep seeing. From this exact point on the field, you're trying to get around it. Acronic realize don't really have it, so they just try to take some power off of it. The problem is they get so hard underneath it that it goes over. If they got less power on that, I think that might actually be a goal. And those types of misses are especially brutal when you account for the fact that OpTic ended up winning this game. Oh, and then speaking of missed opportunities, Acronic misses that touch. Op doesn't have the immediate read, but high pop. Oski's trying to keep the play going, but hits it straight down. This is one of the balls that just isn't useful unless you have a player directly on top of it. This is going to be somewhat easily dealt with to the side. AJ gets that, gets a couple 50s, and then it's just pure counter because Liquid biting up way too much. On this one from Atao in the purple car, I'm not a huge fan of going all the way through this one, particularly because Oski's still rotating back, and then Acronic has to kind of do that by himself. Loses a 50, AJ looks upfield, bang. Like, aggression and speed are definitely a double-edged sword at times. Acronic just trying to play it in interesting positions, and again, this is what I was referring to earlier from Acronic. I wanted to see him find a ball out of the corner. This is shootable. You could totally hit this, but the problem is someone's in the way. But Oski, hey, they're facing the ball, and Magic isn't. So he angles his car. I think he wanted to hit it maybe a little bit more to the side or even get a 50, potentially, but goes for kind of a weaker hit that goes a little bit to the left. Magic Bear seemingly has an easy read. In fact, from Magic's perspective, I almost guarantee you can barely see Oski. As you can see, he just comes into his camera right here, and then you think he realizes the side of, oh wait. No one there, no one there. Oh, what a weak touch. Oh. And that's why plays across the rotation are so impressive and so difficult to read, because from the defender's perspective, there's no reason you shouldn't turn for that. It looks like a weak touch that they just kind of screwed up. I'm a huge fan of patient play like that. Oski deals that really, really well though. So the inside to Atao off the bar, that's a miss. And I will say, this is the moment that got memed a lot on Reddit and on Twitter, I noticed, that Liquid had a wide open goal on a counter and they beamed it. Yeah, it's probably going straight down to the right? Huh? I genuinely don't understand how it bounces like this. Because the ball's traveling like a V, but it looks like it like comes at this angle and then just goes like that. Like just like almost like 75-degree angle touch. And so very difficult read. On top of the fact that it's so close to the bar that you're not sure if it's going straight down or out. Good attempt at a counter from OpTic. Unfortunately, the ball just takes it a little too wide, so can't really build something from that. Either way, AJ swoops in, gets a nice touch here. And again, just a little too much trust here. Oski's moving up to the midfield. This ball gets 50'd, and then suddenly it's bang. This is more so on AJ for being in a good position, so it's a good offensive play. Not necessarily a defensive blunder, but it's a tough thing for sure because a lot of playing fast at a high level is just reacting quickly and making decisions quickly. And at least for me, when I'm watching this from Oski's perspective, the thing that strikes me about it is that you're at 0 boost, but you're still staying in the midfield here instead of just half flipping out and trying to get back to goal. So you're like sitting. Oh, like you're last back. I'm not entirely sure why he's even upfield. It's one thing to hold a structure, but if you have 0 boost and you're not even grabbing pads, anything in the middle, which would typically be yours, is kind of not yours. Like you can't challenge anything except if it's like shin height. Yeah, it is 30 seconds remaining, but it's a 1-goal game at that point. But ultimately, this is a lot better. Obviously, OpTic in Game 3 wins 4-0, just because they are the ones that are getting all the dangerous touches into the middle. They're the ones not wasting possession. This is a Game 4 of Liquid's mistakes, and I think that's really the talk that they had to have between Games 4 and 5, is say, if we just calm down and make sure we're not getting caught, like in the 3rd goal, at midfield with no boost, we're probably fine. So Game 5, this is for the reverse sweep, be able to slowly do that. Granted, as I say that, Acronic is able to just soft touch his way through. Pass middle. And I wouldn't say this is a harbinger of things to come, but this is definitely, I would say, an over-aggressive play. I was pretty confused, at least on Reddles here, as he comes back and soft touches it. This is the correct decision, at least, as you soft touch it down and it buys time for your teammate to get back. Problem then becomes, though, is that you have 10 boost, which means you basically have one decision on how you can actually challenge. And for me, I'd want to catch I want to land, turn to the left, his left, so back towards goal, and try to shadow. Because the problem is you have AJ on the near post, which means Magic's kind of ISO in the middle, and Reddles chooses to land and immediately challenge, but Atto has the catch, and then it goes inside. And I would say, ordinarily, this wouldn't even be that bad, but Magic, I don't think is ready for this, because as you see, come back, Reddles holds it up, that's fine. But then Magic keeps gravitating over and over and over and over, which leaves the middle wide open. Atto sees that and just rolls one. Magic, meanwhile, is already challenging a ball that Reddles is also on, and it's kind of just a collision where it's one of those plays where it's like, I don't think this really had to happen from either player, and yet, here we go. In very classic OpTic fashion. So that one is a little over-aggressive. Atto from the ceiling. I will say, forces a fantastic save out of Magic Bear. I remember watching this live, and I really thought this was 2-0 destined, but instead you see Magic Bear play this one really well. Again, you have to make decisions very quickly at high-level play. So the decisions are, do I go for this? Nah, I'm not gonna be able to get there. He definitely has a reset. So then the second one is you have to immediately make the decision of not hesitating, just saying, I am full on playing this read. He's going left to right. He's really on the far side of it. It's either going directly at me or to the side. It's not going to the other side. So rotate over, wait for it, and save. Really nice save from him. I will say that definitely gave me a little bit more hope in OpTic throughout the rest of this. And this is the great bump play from OpTic. But again, it also starts from Liquid trying to hold the play up. And the thing is, a 10 boost from that angle, you're not really going to get too much of a flick. And you see Magic Bear immediately commit to this. you see him immediately commit to this because OpTic, even if he gets a flick, is probably going to be a pretty weak one, and he's probably thinking, well, if you get a flick, I know it's flick, so bump, and then keep boosting through, realize, wait, I'm past the ball. All right, how about just getting the next guy? Fantastic bump, and then AJ has... Actually, kind of still a very stressful shot, because personally, when I saw this, I thought he was just going to hit into Magic Bear. But then he just barely misses him and get a goal. But then it's just, okay, let's grab pads. But then he turns away right at the 50. This is also something that's really difficult. Turn timing is something I've been trying to coach more, or at least like talk about more. Because when you're turning toward or away from the ball, you have to time it in a way that doesn't impact the play too much. And since Chronic is facing away on the 50, he doesn't really know where this is going to go. So then the ball stays in place. He's still away. Still away, turns, and then right here, he's kind of boned because you don't really have a read on this. You'd either have to jump and hope you can flip forward and save it, but you're also last back, so you're saying, okay, let's wait for the next guy to get it. Oh, OpTic doesn't have it. And through. Because at least from OpTic's perspective, I think he's pretty much blinded on this one. He kind of just goes forward instead. OpTic, good chase. And this one I really want to watch from OpTic's perspective, because again, I mentioned Liquid loves going off the ceiling. They do it. I'm not going to commit to more than any other team, but they do it a lot. Simply because it gives you a lot of options. It's not just because it's a dangerous play to set up in terms of like, oh, your individual shot, you can go for 50%. It's mainly because when you're above the ball, if you touch it at all, gravity helps you with a touchdown. So OpTic comes around, knows that he'll probably get a beat, and then at this point, he just goes to the ceiling because he knows it's going to be a loft. He's got more than enough boost to make a play with it, but what I love about this play is that instead of just trying to catch this one and shoot it on target, he notices both Reddles and Magic Bear are on the back line waiting. So where's the best place to put it? Right at the top of the box. So clean. This one is not necessarily an easy read or telegraphed by Reddles, but this is something that I think Carmine Core does probably better than any other team in terms of immediate pressure, but this is a play that a lot of players are starting to do with pre-jumps where Reddles cuts on this one, and I think the moment that Chronic notices it goes up, Reddles doesn't have an easy read because this ball's straight up. You can't drive and then aerial, like a normal aerial, so he knows it's going to be a little slower. So even though he's way farther away, as long as he gets high enough off the ceiling, he can get a partial touch. And at this point, it's a full court carry, which is just not going to work out at any point. So poor OpTic, not able to carry it forward. They dropped the game. Liquid able to avoid the reverse sweep. And I think this is a valiant effort from OpTic, but Liquid just has too many options and they're too dangerous. They're all some of the most mechanical players in Europe. And when they do combine those solo plays with those kind of like cheeky infield passes, I think it's super dangerous. I think OpTic gave them way too much space throughout this game in which they were starting to hemorrhage goals. And that's my biggest issue with the way OpTic plays in general, is that I think their individual play styles blend together pretty well. There's a lot of goals where it feels like they're just a little too far back or a little bit too far spaced out, or they're not closing down a play in time. And while I don't think, I mentioned plot armor earlier, while I don't think OpTic like loses these games because they're just playing bad, I think it's because there's certain movements that I think could be a little cleaner. And when you're playing against a team like Liquid, it's just like only a matter of time before you start getting, balls in your den.